Hey everyone, and happy Thursday. I hope you all are staying safe and staying warm. We really wanted to do this in person. I had a whole presentation, but unfortunately, with the way the last 2 nights had gone, we thought it was in everybody's best interest to take this event virtual. So I have my notes that I will be referencing in lieu of a presentation. I have my hot Adagio tea, herbal chamomile for the evening, just to get nice and cozy and really share this time with you all. So for those who may be joining who don't know me, my name is Dr. Carolina Sweldo, and I am a double board certified fertility specialist here in the Fort Lauderdale area. I am the founder of Sabo Fertility Center that's located in the heart of Fort Lauderdale. We opened our doors just a little while ago on September 25th. And really the idea was fertility care reimagined. I really just wanted to bring the human touch back to the fertility space. And so with that, we are currently serving patients all over the state of Florida and all over the state of California. I am still licensed in California, but the procedures are done in Fort Lauderdale. So I wanted to introduce myself for those who might be new here. I wanted to introduce Sabo Fertility for those who may not be familiar with the center. For those who did register for the in-person event, we will be handing out goodie bags and scheduling meet and greets and whatnot with me, so you would have gotten a separate email about that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is why I decided to do this event. And, over the course of my years as a physician, the holidays appears to be a particularly difficult time for the infertility community and certainly for my patients. And so I wanted to provide really a safe space where they could come and gather and support and maybe find some tips and tricks that might be helpful to them. So when we talk about infertility, I think it's really important to talk about why the holidays can be, a tough time. And, I've had patients who have been told they should just stop trying, that it wasn't meant to be at a holiday gathering. I've had patients have a miscarriage over a Thanksgiving holiday and they weren't even home, so it was happening in somebody else's house. I've had patients who've been told, just relax, that's the classic. Other patients who are really triggered by the mailbox full of holiday cards. And so really it's important to identify that infertility is synonymous with grief. And I think we don't talk about that enough. So if you're just joining now, you can put #live in the comments. If you're watching this on replay, I would love it if you would just put #replay. I promise I will get to everybody's comments as you guys come through. And so getting back to infertility as grief, and when you look up the Webster's dictionary definition of grief, it is severe and poignant distress. And if infertility is not that, then I don't know what is, right? And again, the grief is not linear. It can happen at different points. There can be high highs and low lows in the same day or even in the same moment or situation. And it's also compounding, particularly for the infertility patient who is experiencing month after month of missed menses or month after month of negative pregnancy tests. So the grief is compounding over time. So it's not linear. It's compounding. And then on top of that, you may have external pressures from these holiday gatherings that are really making it that much more difficult. And I like to talk about grief as an emotion. And for those who are just joining, I have my notes. There was supposed to be a whole in-person presentation. So in lieu of that, we're talking about, I just took some notes and we're talking about it here. I like to talk about grief as an emotion, as a flower. So imagine that a flower normally, what does it do? It grows, it blossoms, and then it wilts away and dies, right? So if that emotion is not allowed to blossom and release, then it ultimately gets confined and constrained inside our body. And so it may have an exaggerated or reactive response. Maybe we respond to something much more reactively than we otherwise would have. It may be that it ruminates, and so it's sort of this repetitive or ruminating thoughts that come with it. And so there's different ways that grief may be expressed when it's not allowed or not able to be released. So when we talk about the stages of grief, and I'll pause here for just a second. For those who don't know, there's a nonprofit national organization called Resolve. You can just go to www.resolve.org, and they actually outline the 5 stages of grief on their website. So you can reference that after this live. But the 5 stages of grief, are typically described as denial. So, oh no, there's nothing wrong with me. Oh no, it's not a problem. Or we're fine, we'll just keep trying. The second stage is typically anger. This is not fair. Why me? There's typically a lot of anger towards baby showers or birth announcements or pregnant patients on the street. And it's a very visceral feeling that's coming from deep within. We also then have bargaining. So the third stage of grief is defined as bargaining. And so if I just do X, Y, or Z, it'll happen. If I just, lose the weight, or if I just stop the caffeine, or if I just do this baby shower for my friend or whatnot. So we talk about denial, we talk about anger, we talk about bargaining. And then finally we have depression, which is very common in the infertility community. So talking about depression, what's the point? It's never going to happen. And then finally, the 5th stage of grief is acceptance and being able to say it's going to be okay. The interesting thing about these 5 stages is that they're described very nicely, but what grief actually feels like is a big ball of yarn. So all of these different stages can be enmeshed and really kind of mixed up into each other. And so it's really important to acknowledge each of the stages that you might be in any given time. So what's the goal? What's the goal? I wanted to lay the foundation. I wanted to, just share what you may be experiencing or what patients have told me that they've gone through to try and lay the groundwork for how are we going to devise a plan. So the goal here is to have a plan, because a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? And yes, Dr. Watson, thank you so much. I do think this is a really important topic. And I do think it's not just for the infertility community. I think this can be extrapolated to any tough situation. I think family gatherings and holidays tend to be a tough time for many. But tonight we're talking specifically about the infertility community. So really the goal is to have a plan. And so that's really what I want to focus on today. If you're watching this live, go ahead and take out a pen and paper at this time while I take a sip of my tea. If you're watching this on replay, this is the time when you'll want to pull that out. Because really the next steps are going to be actionable steps that you can think through after this live. And if you have a partner, you can certainly talk through it with your partner after this live. So number 1, you want to hold space for yourself. You want to acknowledge, past emotions, past experiences, or what you might be feeling right now. So that's number 1, is hold space for yourself and acknowledge the emotions. Without judgment, right? There's no judgment in what you may be feeling. It's simply the reality of what you're going through and what those feelings are. So acknowledging those emotions without judgment is going to be really important. We do know that the typical response is typically going to be fight or flight, but there's a few others as well. So it can be fight, flight, freeze, or frown. So if you identify with any of those, I could give you, real life situations. So a fight response might be, you're at the middle of Thanksgiving dinner and you blow up in the middle of the table at somebody for a comment that they said. And the reaction is completely out of step with what the comment was, but there's so much built up grief that it is expressed in that moment as fight. Flight may be that you get up and leave the table. So you don't want to hear it, you can't hear it, you've heard it before, you get up and you leave. The third is freeze, which I think, a lot of people will relate to, is you're there and you just don't know how to react. You don't know what to say. Somebody asks you, oh, you guys have been married for how long now? When is it going to happen? And there's almost like this frozen, I'm not sure what to do next, reaction. And then lastly, frown, which would be the tears, right? And how many of us have had a breakdown in the middle of a family gathering because of our infertility, or because somebody announced they were pregnant at the family gathering? So really just acknowledging the emotions is important to help maybe prevent some of those responses that we just mentioned. So fight, flight, freeze, or frown. So number 2 is set the intention for the season. What do you want to feel this season? And so that intention might look like peace, calm. It might look like excitement, connection, joy, serenity, love. There's so many different intentions that one can think of. So really identifying what is it that you want to experience this holiday season. And there's a described model for well-being. It's called the PERMA model of well-being. And it includes P for positive emotions. And so do you want to feel more positive emotions? Number 2, engagement. So some people feel nurtured or replenished by engaging with others, engaging with their family, engaging with their friends. Number 3, relationships. So being in relationship. Number 4, meaning, and this might be volunteering or doing something of impact. And then lastly, accomplishment. An accomplishment might be running your first 5K, or, lifting a certain weight, that you haven't lifted before, and beating your personal record. So really just trying to identify the intention, and then in what ways are you going to be able to achieve more of that during the holiday season. And then lastly, set the boundary. So if you know that there's a gathering that has always been triggering for you in the past, do you have to go? If there's a family member that you know has been particularly difficult, do you have to interact with them? So really being thoughtful and intentional, not only about what feeling you want to have this holiday season and how you're going to achieve it, but also setting boundaries to somebody or something or some place that might be triggering for you during this chapter in your life. So really, really important stuff here. When we set boundaries, women historically are not good at that, myself included. So a lot of times when we start talking about setting boundaries, there is a lot of resistance that comes up for people. They either they struggle with the exercise. They can't avoid certain family members. My mom is the one who triggers me, but I just can't not see her during the holiday season. Potentially can't avoid certain gatherings. I really don't want to see my sister this year because I know she's pregnant and I don't want to see her pregnant belly, but she's the one hosting Christmas dinner or whatnot. Lastly, they might be embarrassed about boundary setting. Like, I can't tell my parents that I'm not going or whatnot. And so really just acknowledging what those are. What is the resistance that you feel that may hinder you from being able to achieve the intention that you want for this holiday season? And really identifying that and then working through it. So the big takeaway here is having forethought and really thinking through and planning ahead what is going to best serve you this holiday season. And so we've really gone through some clear-cut action steps as to what that might look like. So again, number 1, acknowledge the emotion without judgment. Number 2, set the intention for the season. Calm, peace, joy, excitement, engagement, all those kinds of things. And then number 3 is set the boundary, right? So what are the triggers? Where or when do they happen? And how are we going to avoid those this holiday season? How are we going to proactively minimize those or decrease those in this holiday season? So now I want to just take a moment and acknowledge for those people that have a partner that are going through this holiday season. And so for those that have a partner, communicate, right? I don't think in this season that there is such a thing as over communication. And some questions that I would ask you would be, number one, do you know what your partner's feelings or thoughts are in this journey? What their triggers are? What their responses are? Do they fight, flight, freeze, or frown? So those are all really important. And then are you guys navigating, a path that you're both on board with? So let's say you've decided to stop fertility treatment. Are you both in agreement with that? If maybe you decided to explore IVF for the first time, are you both on board with that? And so really understanding this path that you're on, are you on it together? Are you on the same page? And really communicating with your partner, what's their intention for this holiday season? What is their trigger, and how are we going to minimize their exposure to those triggers? Are we going to have, a look or a password, a keyword, or, something that can help us navigate some of the maybe inevitable gatherings, if you will, although I would argue none of them are mandatory. So really being intentional about your communication with your partner. And now I encourage you to do the work. So Thanksgiving is a week away. We have about a month or so until, the end of the year comes. I really invite you to do the work of taking out a journal, taking out a pen and paper, and sitting down and going through this. So again, just recapping, talking about the stages of grief. Again, those were denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And although we describe them all very cleanly and clearly, they all present very jumbled in one moment or one experience. And so understanding that grief is not linear in the fertility journey, and that grief is compounding in the fertility journey. And what I mean by compounding is that with each negative pregnancy test or with each pregnancy loss, the grief becomes larger and larger. So then we talked about action steps. Number one is having a plan and being intentional about how we're going to approach this holiday season while we navigate our infertility journey and pregnancy loss journey. So setting the intention, what feeling or what emotion do you want to have or would you like to experience more of during this holiday season? Number two is, how are you going to do that? Remember that PERMA that we talked about? So, positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And then lastly, setting the boundary and enforcing the boundary. And I think this is where most people struggle. And I think this is where there's just, if we can give ourselves grace, there's so much that we can do to honor ourselves and protect our mental and physical health as we navigate this holiday season. So I really hope that this has been helpful for you. During the in-person event, the goal was to have a whole interactive session to follow. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you're comfortable sharing. If not, you can certainly send me a DM, and I'm happy to explore this more with you. The goal was really to have an intimate evening where we could really share and exchange the different experiences that we were all going through as the holidays approach. So again, this is Dr. Sweldo coming to you from my couch in my home as the founder of Sabo Fertility Center and wanting to give you this gift during this holiday season. I hope that this is helpful to you. I hope that you can apply it, and I hope that this will alleviate and make this season just a little bit easier for you come this time of the year as we go. So again, if you did register for the event, you do still have a goodie bag and a meet and greet with me. So please look out for that email to schedule that. For everybody else, I hope you found this helpful. I will be uploading this to my YouTube channel, so you will have access to it as well over there if you prefer that. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of this. Please let me know any feedback that you're comfortable sharing. And I look forward to seeing you at Sabo Fertility Center in Fort Lauderdale. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, guys. Have a great evening. Bye-bye now.